Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. Middle of July, I know a lot of people are on vacation or just at least on vacation in their mind, but thank you that you're here today. We have a very exciting webinar, and we have a lot that we're going to cover. As you're gearing up towards fall, a lot of people are starting marketing campaigns this fall. It's time to think about what you are doing with your content, what you're doing with your social media, and how to get things to run on autopilot for you. So today, this is Mindy Weinstein, which I didn't introduce myself. I have Danielle with us, so she's going to walk us through DSS, and also Mike, who will be showing us some great social media strategies and how to basically link your content to your social network. So we have a lot to cover, and we are going to have some time for questions at the end. But just to give you a little taste of what we're going to be talking about over the next hour, we're going to first start out with showing you how to identify how much content you need to compete with other firms. Because that's really what it's all about. I mean, you don't have to be the best on the internet. You don't have to outrank all the millions of websites out there. You just have to be better than your competitors. And so that's what we're going to take a look at with a cool new tool that we have in DSS that isn't available to everyone yet, but we'll get there and we'll still show it to you. And then we're going to talk about how to schedule your content, the importance of different types of content, and how to get automatic posts to your social networks. But that's not the last step. Once you set everything up and you put it on the autopilot, let's be honest, you can't just sit back and do nothing. It'd be great if it was that way, but it's just not reality. So you also have to watch what pages are actually converting visitors. You have to take a look at bounce rates, and you have to see where you can improve. So we're going to show you all those things today and more. And so we'll have some time for questions, but feel free to put them in the chat box like normal, and we will get to those at the end of our presentation. So first, let's start out with identifying how much content you need to compete with other firms. And again, this is important because, like I said, you don't have to be the best out there, but you have to be better than your competitors. And so that means you can't go about marketing blindly. You can't just say, you know what, if I just put 10 content pieces out there a month, I'm going to rank well. I'm going to be above all my competitors. I'm going to blow them away. Well, if you don't really know what you're up against, that's not a great strategy. So Danielle and Mike too, I didn't thank you guys for being here, so thanks for joining me on the webinar today.
Happy to be here.
Fantastic. And Danielle, I'm going to give this over to you now because I would love for you to show everyone how they can go about gathering information on their competitors and just give them an idea of how they would go about that.
Okay, so the first step of figuring out how much content you need to do so that you can create a calendar and get your content up every month is to figure out how much you need to do. And one of the ways that you can do that is by taking a look at what your competitors are doing online. Now, we do have the general guideline, which is about 30 to 50 pieces of content per month. But if you really want to get strategic, you can analyze what the other folks in your space are doing and create a marketing strategy around what they have done with their websites. And one of the things we're working on here at Foster Web Marketing that we're going to give you a sneak peek of today is our competitive analysis tool. And this is in a beta version right now. We're working on it internally, but eventually y'all will have access to this so you can do research about your competitors. And we're going to use one of our clients as a guinea pig today. We have the Maryland AccidentAttorneys.net, which is Jimeno and Gray's auto accident website up in Maryland. And as most of you know, personal injury is a pretty competitive space, and they're in Maryland, so they have a great deal of competitors. So one thing we're going to do to try to figure out how much content they should produce each month to catch up with their online competitors is look at what the other folks are doing. So what we've done here is we've plugged in their website, their practice area, which is the auto accidents, and we've given them a radius, in this case a 50-mile radius around where they're located to see who is competing with them online. And here we're going to focus on the number of pages that their competitors have indexed so we can see how big their websites are and what it would take for Jimeno and Gray to catch up with these other folks.
And Danielle, if you don't mind if I stop you for a second, we don't need to redo the data that's there, but will you just show everyone, you don't have to just say 50 miles. I know we have some clients out there that say, you know what, the whole state is what I'm after. I mean, they can look at different radiuses, correct? Yep.
Yes, we're running this by zip code, so you can look at competitors within your zip code if you already have a very dense area or a lot of competitors near you, or you can blow it out to up to 150 miles away from you. And we're going to continue to refine this way of doing it, but this is what we have right now. And again, it's just to give you an idea of who your competitors are online and what they're doing. And again, the thing we want to focus on is what do other auto accident attorneys within 50 miles of the Glen Burnie, Maryland zip code, what are these guys doing for their websites? So we can see we've got the Maryland accident attorneys statistics here. That's the U up top. And if what we're focusing on is index pages, they've got 794 pages of content on their website, which is pretty good. But if we take a look at what their competitors are doing, we'll go down to the next area. We have the competitors, and we divide them into tiers. The upper tier is the top 20% of websites, and this is all ranked by domain authority, so how much authority their websites have online. Then we have the middle tier, which is the middle 60% of the websites by domain authority. And then the lower tier, and these are the guys on the bottom who hopefully you guys won't be competing with because you're already beating them. So in this case, again, we're looking at index pages because we're trying to do our content calendar. And we can see that the middle tier has, on average, 261 pages of content, and the top person in this tier has 10,000.
And just going back to the index pages, just for those of you that this isn't the language you use every day like we do, index pages, linking domains, I mean, those are terms that we throw around all the time. But index pages, it's just like it sounds. That's how many pages have been indexed by the search engines. So that's what people are finding when they search in Google, if they type in Maryland accident attorney, I mean, that type of thing. So that's what that means for those of you who may not be very clear on that.
Yeah, thank you, Mindy. And the other thing we want to look at is the upper tier has 919 on average. That's how many pages they have on their website that the search engines know about, and then a max of 8,000. So what we're trying to do is figure out what are these folks doing, how many pages do they have on their websites, and what would you have to do to catch up to them. Now the other thing we can do, and I'm not going to play with the tool too much because that's not what the call is about, is you can actually go down and see who your competitors are and filter those. I've already taken out some that have some unrealistic numbers, but you can add and remove different websites to bring your numbers into a more realistic perspective.
And I think what's interesting about competitors before we move on, and I don't want to get too off topic, and you're right about we don't want to focus too much on the tool, but you know, I talk to our clients on a regular basis, quite a few of them, and I'll ask a lot of times, you know, who are your competitors? But you have to remember that when we're asking that question, we're talking about your competitors online. Just because you know the law firm down the street that has all those annoying television commercials, we have a lot of those out here, or those big giant billboards, that doesn't necessarily mean they have a really strong presence online. So it's always good to take a look at your competitors, like who's actually competing online, because sometimes there is a difference. You know, some of these guys that are spending millions of dollars on TV ads aren't doing a whole lot on the web. So you need to be looking at your competitors online. So it might even be a small firm, but if they're killing it and they're outranking you, you've got to pay attention to what they're doing. So it's kind of a side note, but I just wanted to throw that out there because it's something that comes up quite often.
That's a very good point. You have your online competitors who are doing what you're trying to do with your website, which is bring in business through the web, and then you have folks who are doing different types of advertising, and you would have a different approach for targeting, competing with those folks. So we're only focusing on online marketing here. You know, what can you do with your website to catch the folks who are beating you online? And the big thing is trying to figure out how many pages of content you need to do each month to catch up with your competitors. So what we've done is we've divided, this is an example of how you can figure it out. Looking at Jimeno and Gray's competitors, how much would you have to do each month to catch, on average, what everybody else is doing? To compete in the upper tier of websites, if you were going to take 2 years to catch everybody, which is quite a long time, but depending on who your competitors are, this might be a big number. That's the amount of content they have more than you divided over 2 years. You would have to do 5 content pieces a month, which isn't bad at all. Moderate, 10 pieces, and more aggressive. So in Jimeno and Gray's case, to catch the top tier, they would only need 20 pieces a month. Now again, this is to bring you up to average with your competitors. If you actually wanted to compete with the people at the top of your tier, you'd need to do more. But again, this is just an example of how to figure out what you need to do and in what time frame. And again, you want to keep adding content in order to stay on top of what your competitors are doing, because they're not going to remain static. They're going to keep adding content and keep adding content, so you can't just rest once you've hit the top.
Exactly, and I think what you just said too, it's important once you identify something like that, like okay, if I'm adding 20 pieces a month, yeah, I'm going to be keeping up. But again, you want to do better. So, I mean, if looking at that number, I would say, gosh, I would want to do at least 30, 40 a month, so that I'm staying up ahead, ahead of everybody else. That's the whole thing. You want to be better than those others on the internet. So, I think that's a really good point, Danielle.
Yep. Now that we have an idea of how much content to add, you need to think about what types of content you should be adding. And Mindy, that's where we turn it back over to you.
Yep, absolutely. The thing with content, it's such a broad term for a lot. I mean, content. What is content? Content's a lot of things. But I think, it's content includes blog posts. Content includes articles. It includes news items, frequently asked questions. Content also includes video. So you can't forget that video is actually content as well. Now, one of the big mistakes that I actually see is when people only focus on one of those. So they decide, you know what, okay, 20 content pieces, no problem. I am going to crank out 20 blog posts, and I'm going to make them about a paragraph, just something real short. Okay, that's not effective. That's not what we're talking about. You have to have a mix of content, and I'm going to discuss the importance of each one in a moment. That you have to have a mix of, the article library. We call them library articles because in DSS it says article library. But those are your more substantial pieces. I can get that out, which we'll discuss in a second. And then you have your blog posts, which are shorter. You have frequently asked questions. You have the news, which is going to be on a current event. And of course, you always need to be, updating testimonials in other areas. But my focus right now is going to be on those articles, the news items, blogs, and frequently asked questions. So let's start with the article library. Those should be in the mix each month with the content you're doing. If you listen to our webinars regularly, you hear us talk about the importance of content and why you need to add it. We talk a lot about, the updates Google's made. The freshness update was one that we spent a lot of time on in the fall, about how you need to keep up on current events and all that. Well, a library article doesn't really fall in that realm of being a current event per se, but it's just as important. To me, an article, a library article, would be something that is going to apply for a long period of time. It's not going to be something that's outdated next month, 6 months from now, a year from now. I understand laws change and you'd have to update it, but it's not tied to necessarily a current event. So it might be something like a how-to guide. Someone was injured in an accident, here's the how-to guide for them. It could be something like a top 5 list. We see a lot of the top 5, mistakes to avoid, but you can play off of that more, get a little bit more creative. But it's not necessarily giving legal advice, because I know you can't do that, on the web, but you're still giving someone informative, educational content that they could take today after reading it and do something with it. They've actually learned something that they can apply to their situation. And with all the pieces, which I'll talk about as we go through them, your goal with your content isn't to make everyone a legal expert, and I think that a lot of people don't realize they're doing that when they write, but they get so in-depth and involved with these articles that it gets to be over someone's head. So you have to remember it's educational, it's informative, it's going to apply, next month, 6 months, a year from now, but again, it's a taste of information. You don't have to put everything in here. But your article, still, like I said, it could be on any really legal topic, whatever applies to your practice area. But Danielle has pulled up here what it looks like when you go to add a library article. So I hope that everyone on this call, this looks familiar. And if it doesn't look familiar to you, then later today, you better get into DSS and start writing, because this should be something that you've seen a lot and on a daily basis, hopefully. So starting at the top, you don't want to ignore any of these fields. They're there for a reason. We didn't just put them in there to make the page look fancy and look like there's all these things that we want you to put in just because. They each have their purpose. So you start with the title. Now your title still needs to be catchy because it's going to actually show up on your site in the article library feed, but it's going to turn into the actual URL of the document. So that is important that you have a catchy title, but it should also include a keyword that you're going after. If you're going to err on any side, make sure you err on the side of readability when you're working on it. But think of something that's, you can do catchy and you can do a keyword at the same time. So that's your title. And you want to stay under 70 characters with that. And that's characters, that's spaces, periods. I don't know why you'd have a period in there, but that's everything else in there. And then you go to your page headline. That's also important for these library articles, and that should, again, be compelling and get someone to read your content. If you put something boring on there, like, I'm trying to think, yeah, what to do after an accident. Well, that's kind of boring. You could do something like the biggest mistake you might make that would hurt your accident case, but throw a keyword in there. So it might be the biggest mistake you could make that would hurt your Orange County, California case, because I'm in Orange County, so I always throw in my location. But there's different things you can do, but your headline's important. So your title is incredibly important, your headline's incredibly important, and then you move on down here, which is a newer field for us, the author on this page. This is the author tagging that we've been talking about, and it's important too. So you want to make sure that you are tagging yourself as the author. And if Danielle, you want to show what the drop down, it's just a drop down. You pick your name. You want to put in well, this is all of ours too. So you don't want to make, yeah, we have a lot of people, so maybe we don't want to go there. But I don't want to spend too much on how to set up the author tagging, but you want to make sure that you are adding your name, that when you are setting up your author tag, which is under your bio. We don't need to go into that too much because we have an article we can send out. But you would just, you can link it, do like a one sentence, what you do, who you are kind of thing, your title. Link it to your Facebook page, your Google Plus profile, your LinkedIn account, that type of thing. So that's important. I don't want to spend too much time on it, but we can send an article on how to do it if anyone has questions on that. And then you go to your meta description. Now you have to remember that the meta description shouldn't be ignored. It shouldn't be something that's just copied directly from your article. It shouldn't be something that's on a bunch of other pages you already have. It should be something that's unique to that piece. And you want to stay under 160 characters, just how it shows there. And that's what's so great about DSS. They actually tell you. You don't have to try to remember, like, what did Danielle and then you say? I can't remember. Was it 150 characters? Was it 170? It's right there. So no reason to forget that.
We will let you go over. Yeah, DSS will let you go over the 160 character limit. Just know that the search engines don't show more than that. So you're just wasting characters. It's really a challenge for you to write a compelling, interesting meta description within 160 characters.
Exactly, and that's the thing in what you just said is that the search engines go up to 160 characters. So you might want to go over because you just have 180 characters you just have to put in there. But it's going to look, think about how it's going to look in search results. So really try to get the 160 characters. It might be a cut-off sentence if you go over. So, but it's important. It should describe the piece. All this goes to conversion. Your title, your headline, and your meta description should all tie together, and they should all be about the piece you're writing. You don't want to do any kind of bait and switch where you're getting someone to the page by telling them that the article is about one thing, and they get there and it's just some boring old legal topic that they've read everywhere else. You want to make sure that it describes the content accurately, that you want your meta description to also have keywords in it, and you want it to be about the piece. And so then, of course, you pick your practice area, which is the next field on here. And then the rich content editor, that's where you'd actually put in the body. Can I stop you for a minute? Yeah.
I wanted to interject something here. When you're assigning your content, whether it's a library item, a news article, or an FAQ, when you're assigning it to a practice area or other category, you want to try to do everything you can to assign that piece of content to an actual practice area. What you'll notice is that DSS, when you create a practice area in DSS, you automatically get a category with the same name as that practice or area within each of your content types. So for example, on our website, we have a number of different practice areas, and these are also categories within our content. And if you put each of your content items into one of these practice area categories or one of these practice area buckets, whenever people are on, for example, on website design, if I were to add a library article for website design, when people go to that article, they're going to see other relevant content in the sidebar items and in the buckets that are related to website design. So it allows you to classify all of your similar content together, so they will see FAQs and blogs and news items and testimonials and anything related to website design whenever they're navigating through any content item that relates to website design. If you create a separate category for your library or for any of your content types, you effectively orphan that piece of content off on its own little bucket. It's no longer related to all the other items within that practice area. Now, you might want to do that. We do have some folks who create a separate press room category where they keep items that are only for a press room or something like that. But for the most part, you really want to try to put your different content items into one of your practice area categories.
Oh, that's great. And that's a very, very good point. Just continuing on down through here, want to scroll down to where they can actually schedule the content. Because that is, we're talking about, a lot of this is review for you guys. You're like, okay, yeah, I know this. I'm doing my titles that are great. I'm doing great headlines. I'm doing all that. But the importance of this call is to show you that it can all run on autopilot. So going back to, well, you don't need to change the screen, but going back to the example that we showed of the Maryland accident website, and we saw, okay, well, to compete aggressively, we need to be adding a minimum of 20 content pieces a month. Okay. Let's say, though, take that step further, we want to do better than all the other competitors. So let's say we're going to do 30 content pieces a month. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to make sure that you have something, 30 is an easy number, that's why I picked it, have a content piece posting each day of the month. So right here, we're schedule your publish date. You can schedule it for whenever you want it to post. What I would recommend, and how I've always approached writing, because writing is something I love to do, is I always write a lot of content in one sitting. Instead of doing like one blog this day, one article this day, I sit down and write a lot of content, and then you load it, put it all into DSS, and schedule it for each day. So if you want to start out, you're working on August, let's say it's going to go in August, you would just pick August 1st for your posting date, and then you're done. And then you just go down and you save your document, and you work on adding another. So you want to make sure that you're staggering that content. So if you decide, I'm going to do 30 pieces on a monthly basis because I want to blow all my competitors away, you don't want those 30 pieces to post the same day, which is obvious. But you don't want them to post the same week, even within 2 weeks. Ideally, you want those content items spread throughout the month. So that's what this content scheduler is going to help you with. And as you're working on an editorial calendar, which I would recommend setting that up, know what you're going to be writing about for the month. You might even pick out a couple themes. Maybe this month's going to be distracted driving month for you. Maybe it's going to be all about DUIs or something, whatever it is that applies to your practice. Create your schedule, know what you're going to write about. If you're in Maryland and you have accidents that you're going after, you need 30 items. Come up with a calendar so you know what item's going to be posting each day. Put it into DSS like this. You pick the date. So I hope that's clear. And I know we don't have anything, so we're not going to actually click done to schedule it. But Danielle, if you don't mind taking us over then to a blog, which I'm not going to go through all the same fields, but I want you just to get a feel for what this process would look like.
Sure.
So you decide, so we're going to just say, okay, you decided that your article was posting the first day. You're going to have a blog post. And this is perfect timing for everybody here because I know a lot of people, if you haven't gone on your vacations this summer, you're probably thinking about it. Either you're going at the end of this month, you're going in August. Content should not stop because you're out of town. It should still be posted while you're away. But that's just kind of a side note. So same thing with the blogs. You have your title. Now if you notice, you don't have a separate headline, but your title is going to be your URL, and it's also going to be the headline that shows up on the page. So it needs to be compelling, and it also should have a keyword. And of course, be relevant to the content that you're writing. Same thing, you can tag the content, you have your meta description, you put the content in here. But if you want to just scroll down, I just really want to emphasize scheduling that content. So let's pretend we put this great content in here, we assigned our practice area. Again, okay, so we already did one for the first, and now we're going to have it scheduled for August 2nd. So you would go through each piece like that and decide, what content are you going to have posting and when. Now, let me tell you something. This is from personal experience. If you're you wrote in advance and you have 30 pieces that you wanted to load into DSS, this week, so that's posting all throughout, the rest of the month and into August, you might start forgetting, okay, did I put that last blog post as the second, or did I put it the third? I don't remember what I put it towards. So, Danielle, if you don't mind taking us to the content log, I want to show you where you could actually see everything together in one place. because I know from personal experience I've done this and then gone to the content log and looked and said, okay, now I posted all these blogs the same day, and so I'll go in and change the date. So we'll show you what that looks like.
Right. So on your left-hand column when you're in DSS, under Site Admin, you click on Website Reports, and then you click on Content Log, and this will display all of the content you've done. Now there's a couple things I want to show you with this. First of all, the default display is for anything that we have written for you, because we do have a lot of clients we write content for, so the default display is anything that Foster Web Marketing is loaded for you. For many of you who are writing your own content, you want to click Only Display Content You Have Done. If you check this box, it'll take it away for us because obviously we write our own content, but this was how you see content that you've written for yourself. So check this box in order to see all of your content. The next thing I want to show you is that you can actually see the content by month or by any date range. So in this case, I have July 2012 pulled up, and you can see we have 36 pieces set to post in July. Or you can do a date range search if you're looking for a 3-month period or a 1-week period or anything you want. You can change the date range. And then you can look through time and see how many pieces you've posted to your site over the previous months. And there's one more feature I want to show you. You can click Display All Content Details here, and this will show you any changes made. So if you're trying to keep track of somebody who's doing work for you, or you don't remember if you went and updated certain pieces of content, check this box and it will show you everything that's changed, whether it's new or whether it's updated. So you can see, like here, article submission is a great attorney SEO strategy was updated in early July by Mike, whereas these other pieces were added on a certain day. So you can see the difference between updates and adding when you use this checkbox. Now I'm going to take it off so we only see pieces that we've added so far in July. And then when we do this, you can see for the blogs, and the list is organized by type of content, and blog always shows up first. And here you can see that one of our content folks added a blog on July the 12th that is set to post on July the 17th. So you can actually see the date a piece was added and the date it is scheduled to post. So you've got all that information right in front of you. And then we can see the same thing with the library items. Those are all scheduled out, because you can see Amy loads all the content typically at once a week, and then posts them throughout the week. So that's a good way to keep track of everything you've loaded and when it's going to go live.
Exactly. I was going to say, this is like your cheat sheet. This is your content cheat sheet. So when you have your content calendar that you created, you put everything into DSS, and you want to cross-reference what dates you picked, go in here. I mean, I live in the content log, but that's part of my duties at Foster Web since I deal with content. So, this is an amazing tool that I use all the time just to keep track on what's going up and when. And so, do you want me to scroll all the way down just to show? It puts everything in here, and it'll even show you the total at the bottom.
FAQs, news, if you change or add reports, and then you get your total at the bottom.
And I realized too, which, I'm going a little bit long just talking about content. I could talk about content all day long, obviously, so I'm not going to bore everyone here. But just really quickly, I started talking about the different pieces. Again, well, I already went over the article library. We're good there. A blog, I get the question a lot, what's the difference? Why do I need a blog? A blog's more of an opinion piece, so it could either be based on an event that happened and you're giving your opinion. What's really great, a really great trick for you is if you resolved a case recently, and you already put it in your case results, you have a testimonial, that's great. Why don't you blog about it too? Especially if it was, a case that you would like to get more of those cases. So blog about it. Say how you were able to help someone, as long as, it's not confidential, of course, but how you helped that person, details of the situation, and how it was resolved. Those are great. And that's great for conversion, and it also gets keywords in there, especially if you can name who the lawsuit was against or what insurance companies were involved, or there's a corporation that you were going after. Put it in here. So don't just stick with the case results and the testimonials. Blog about it. So a blog gives you a little bit more leeway, again, because it's more personal. It doesn't have to be something formal. Now, a news, and this is where there's a lot of confusion between a blog and a news item. News is news. Think of a newspaper. It's reporting the facts. Like you turn on the local news, they're reporting the facts. That's what you do with a news article. A news article isn't necessarily a place where all of a sudden you start giving all your opinions about an event. I would put that in a blog. For news, just like it sounds, pretend you're a reporter. And then frequently asked questions. What I love about frequently asked questions, and I'd recommend them for multiple purposes, or multiple ways you can go about frequently asked questions. One, if there's a particular question that you get when someone calls you, especially if it seems to be the same question over and over and over again, that means that there's a very strong likelihood that people are also searching that question in that form online. So put it in here. Also, if you're writing, for you it was DUI month, then you can create a question that's wrapped around it. You can point people back to an article that has more information, but you can craft a question. Because you have to remember that people search questions. If you've ever looked at your Google Analytics closely, you're probably shocked at what people put in for searches and how they find you. But the truth of the matter is people will search a question. So that's why you want to make sure that you are putting FAQs into the mix. So I don't want to spend too much time. I just realized I kind of left that topic floating out there, and I wanted to close that before we move on. So really, kind of moving on, we've showed you how to identify how many pieces you need to be writing, creating your content calendar, putting it into DSS. Can't forget about social media. Social media is huge. Yesterday, and I mentioned this already to Daniel and Mike, so yesterday I was listening to the morning news, and we know this, we say this, you probably know this, but to actually hear a reporter say these words, she said that, every morning I'm trolling Facebook and Twitter for story ideas. So what does that make you think? Okay, well, what I would think is, gosh, I better make sure that I'm out there tweeting and putting Facebook posts so that if a reporter is searching for something that I have an expertise in, they're going to find me. They're always looking for stories, and you want them to find you. So I know that's overwhelming. We've had a lot of webinars just about social media, but today the theme is making it go on autopilot. So Mike's going to show you how to actually link the content that you've now posted in DSS for the entire month, how to link that to your social networks. So Mike, I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right, so like Mindy said, the point of all your social media platforms for your business, for your law firms, really needs to be to get that content out there. Writing all this content is fantastic, but if you're not getting it out there to the masses, it's not really going to do you any good. So what I'm going to do right now is show you how to actually automate some posts to go to your social media outlets. So there is actually a software out there called Hootsuite, which is right here. And Hootsuite is a great tool for social media because, like I said, it allows you to automate all your social media. Now, in order to do mass posting and mass scheduling, which is what I'm going to show you right now, you do have to get their paid version. It's $5 a month, and it's completely worth it because their basic version does not allow you to do this. So in order to publish long-term, you go to the publisher right here, click, and as you see, I already have things loaded in here to go through the entire month of July. So at the beginning of the month, what I did is I created an Excel spreadsheet and put all of the blog posts, library articles, news items, FAQs that I thought would be great for the month of July and load them into an Excel spreadsheet, which you have to format very, very specifically in order for it to work with Hootsuite. So to do that, you have to put the day of the month. So I'll do, for right now, I'll do the 1st of August. So you do 01, 08, 2012, and then you have to put the time. So it's hours and minutes, and it uses military time. So I will say 9 o'clock in the morning. So once you've determined what day you want to post it, the time you want to post it, you go over to the next column and you put in what you want your message to say. So just for the sake of this exercise, I'll just say, Happy August. I know, very original, but bear with me. So once you have the topic that you want to have go into, say, if you're doing this for Facebook, into your status update, you go over to the next column and you put in the URL of the article or the blog that you want to direct to. So for this exercise, I'm just going to do the Foster Web Marketing homepage. Put it all in there. So then you save the Excel spreadsheet. You go back to Hootsuite. Go to Schedule in Bulk. It has to be saved in a .csv format in Excel. Hit Browse. Bring up the Excel spreadsheet that you just filled out. And if you have interns and you need something for them to do, this is a great exercise for them to do. So you don't necessarily have to do this yourself or have your marketing person do this for you. So once you've selected the Excel spreadsheet that you just pulled up, you're going to select the profile. So if I want to put it for the Foster Web Marketing Facebook page, I select it, and then you hit Submit, and it will load all the messages that you just did, and your entire month of, say, August is completely taken care of. So you don't have to worry about doing a post a day or 2 posts a day from your website to your social media outlets. And Hootsuite works for Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. And they're trying to get a Google Plus integration done, but it's they haven't ironed out a deal yet. Another great tool that you can use to automate social media that works especially well for Twitter is an app called Buffer App. So Buffer App is great for Twitter because Twitter really should be more of a stream of consciousness type of social networking. So, for instance, if a big case has just been won by your firm and you're all excited about it, you want to post it, you can use Buffer App to type it in there and then have it post either right then and there, or you can actually schedule it to go out, say, later that day. So say you get out of court at noon and you want it to hit people at around 4, you can schedule it to drop on your Twitter feed at 4. This is also great for, say you have a bunch of great advice or information that you want to get to clients, spacing it out because you don't want to overwhelm your Twitter followers with constant bombardment of information, because what happens is they're just going to start ignoring you. So Buffer App is a great way to space these messages out and try to do it in about an hour, 2-hour increments so that you're still giving them touches every now and again, but you're not overwhelming them. And really, the point of social media is it's a nurture sequence. It's something for, yes, your people who are going to be interested in what you have to say, but for clients that you have currently, past clients, it's a way for you to remind them that you're still out there, that you're working, and you're constantly learning about your law field.
One thing, Mike, that I want to be sure to mention, or maybe you can talk to it more, is that, you know, we're talking about autopilot, putting it all automatically, but this doesn't, and this is not it for your social media campaign. It's not like you set these up and you're like, okay, I'm done. I don't have to do anything. I mean, can you speak to that about even doing, I don't want to make this too much about social media, but I don't want people to walk away thinking this is all they have to do, because they also have to be a little more personal with social media.
Right, exactly. No, like Mindy said, this is not something where you just push the go button and you step away from it. Something that I like to tell our clients is social media is like a car. You can't just jump in there, turn the key, and expect it to go anywhere. You have to actually press down the accelerator, take the wheel, and take control of where it's going. So yes, what I just went over is a great way to automate a very large portion of your social media strategy, but still the most important part of social media is interacting with other people, going out there and finding articles that aren't necessarily from your website, but you know that your audience is going to enjoy and get a lot of great information out. So what I always suggest for our law clients is that they just keep an eye on, say, the local news. And it doesn't even have to be law related. Say the local high school football team just went out and won the state championship. That's something great to post on your Facebook page and your Twitter profile, and your Google Plus business page, because it shows that you care about your community, you care about other things besides just business, and it is a great way to humanize yourself and, like I said, remind people that you are out there and that you do care about other things besides law.
I think that's great. Well, thank you, Mike. I want to touch on one more important topic about content and about scheduling and really getting more people to convert on your website, and that has to do with revisiting the content that you've added. So again, it's the same thing like Mike was talking about with social media, the same things with your content. Once you have it out there, you still have to, it's not like you just set cruise control. If you set cruise control in your car, like, I'm kind of going off what you just said, it's not like you let go of the wheel. You're still going to hold on, you're still going to pay attention. You just are making things easier for yourself by scheduling these content items, getting your social media set up automatically. But you need to monitor what's going on. You need to see, are these content pieces that I'm producing, are they doing well? And in DSS, we make it actually pretty easy for you to monitor that. So we have, just as Danielle's showing here, we show you your top landing pages, and that's what I'm going to focus on here. And this is ours. We're not afraid to show you. We're showing you things that we work on. So here, look at our second top landing page. It's how to manage your Facebook business page from your iPhone. Look at our bounce rate. 90, it's in red. Well, I mean, it's highlighted now, but 91.03%. That's not good. That's not a good bounce rate. That means that for some reason, people are searching, they're finding this page, they get there, and either they don't like what they see, or maybe it's not informative enough for them, but it's not answering their question like it should be per se. So that's one of the things we'd look at. So what you would want to do is you want to look at your top landing pages. This is in DSS for you. When you scroll down on your dashboard, you're going to see these right here. So Danielle, if you don't mind clicking on the number 2, I'm just going to walk you through it. And this is something I was analyzing just yesterday, because that's not good. I mean, we're getting 812 visitors over, pretty decent time frame, but people, again, are bouncing. So that means that they are arriving on the page and hitting that back button. So that's what a bounce rate is. So let's scroll down a little bit more, because I want to show you, actually don't move the screen yet, sorry. It's when I'm moving it on my end, but obviously that's not working. Okay, so let's start. This is what I do when I look at a page that has a high bounce rate. I'm going to go through a little checklist for myself, and these are the things you should do too. First, I'm going to ask myself, okay, let's look at this title, How to Manage Your Facebook Business Page from Your iPhone. Well, is that title, is that really what this piece is about? So I'd scroll down, and I would look at the piece. Because again, you don't want to do a bait and switch. Even though you have to have a compelling headline, you know what it's like. It's annoying when you are doing a search, and you get to a page and it has nothing to do with what you searched. The title was misleading. I mean, you just get frustrated and you hit the back button. So I was thinking, okay, this post is about how to manage my Facebook business page from my iPhone. What's the first paragraph? While I would highly recommend getting an app like Hootsuite to manage all your social media networks in one place, most apps are limited, blah, blah, blah. So, for example, when uploading images, and it starts going into the question. Now, what I would do, and I'm not going to do this with everyone on the phone, but I was looking at this, I'm going to go back through and I'm going to update that intro. I want to make it start to answer the question right away, because right away it goes into Hootsuite, which Hootsuite's important, but I'm going to start answering the question that was initially posed, how to manage your Facebook business page from your iPhone. I would address that right away in that first paragraph. So I'm going to go back and switch that. The next thing I would look at is, does this piece have a photo, any kind of picture in it? Well, we do, but if you notice, I don't know if anyone notices here, something about this picture, which you guys, and not that anyone's going to speak up, but it's outdated. This picture is outdated. It's no longer relevant anymore. But if we didn't go back and revisit this page, we wouldn't know it. And we purposely didn't update it because we wanted to show it on this phone call today. But we're going to go back and update that picture. That's outdated. That's not really what it looks like anymore. So someone who knows that and they've got their iPhone in their hand, if you're going to see an outdated picture, you're going to click the back button. You're going to feel like it's not relevant. So that's what I look at. If there is no image on the page, I would add one if it has a high bounce rate. People stay longer on a page when there is an image. Next, I would go through the content again and make sure that the title and the question that was posed or the question that appears to be answered is not only being addressed in that introduction, but it's also being built upon with the content. I've said this before, but the thing about web content that's so different than other forms of content is you don't necessarily build upon your story. You know, that's what a lot of things you do when it's offline. You're building upon your story, you have your outline or your intro, and you're just kind of starting to get to the big ending, you know, to let people know this is, they read through the whole piece, but here's your big closing. Web content's not like that. You have to start answering the question in that first paragraph, and you have to continue to answer the question throughout the piece. So what I would do with this one, with it being high bounce rate, is not only am I going to go through and fix that introduction, I'm going to ensure that each paragraph is continuing to answer the question. Now the other great way to improve the bounce rate is to add a video. So with this one, a great video would be a tutorial. Here's how to manage your Facebook business page from your iPhone, and we just walk people through it. So if you have the capability to do something like that, or if you're talking about, you know, things to do after an accident, you could do a video about that. Or if you already have a video that you already produced, and that's what Daniel's showing us here, and it's already in the video library, assign one to the page, because people will watch the video and they'll stay on the page longer, so that bounce rate will go down. And the thing about a bounce rate you have to remember is that can hurt you. So it's not only a conversion issue, but bounce rates aren't good when it comes to SEO purposes. So you want to make sure those bounce rates are low. And then the last thing, it sounds pretty simple, but I would reread the content to just ensure that overall it's a quality piece. If it has typos in it, if it doesn't read well, if it has like the spacing strange, or you know, something's off with it, people aren't going to stay on the page either. And that kind of, as far as like typos and grammatical errors and all that, that speaks to the perception of credibility. So you may know what you're talking about, but if you spelled the words wrong, if you spelled lawyer wrong, people are probably going to hit the bounce button. I mean, they're probably going to hit the back button, and you're going to have a high bounce rate. So I would just reread the content overall and see where I can improve it. And one last tip, if you had, let's say we had an article that went into more about Facebook business pages and how to use it and so forth, I might even end the piece with, you know, check out this article to learn more. So they've been on that page, they see another place they can go, they click on it, and then that even helps not only with, you know, they're on their page longer, bounce rate's better, but they're viewing more pages. So those are just some things to think about. So your job's not done when you put all the content, you have your calendar, you have it all in DSS, you need to monitor what's going on. And if you want to even see, Danielle, if you don't mind clicking on like, going back to the content log, because I want to show you, besides just your top landing pages, if you're curious how like a blog post that you did, how it's performing. Yeah, go to content log and we'll just click on any of them. Well, one that's already posted. So maybe like, yeah, like that one. See this nice little feature? It tells you, so you don't have to go into Google Analytics. You can see, okay, this page has this many visits, this amount of visitors, page views. You can see too, like the bounce rate on there, high bounce rate, something we want to work on. But you can see it all on that page. So if you want to know a particular page, you don't necessarily want to go through Google Analytics, go to that content log. Like I said, I live in the content log. I'm there all the time, but you can see right there what's going on and just fix the page. And then, again, you have to go back and see, did my changes work? And is the bounce rate going down? So that's the last step of the whole content calendar scheduling that you need to take care of. So we have about 10 minutes left, and I know that there are quite a few questions. I want to make sure that we get to all these. So I'm just going to start going through them and answering them for you. So if you have any other questions, like right now that you're thinking of, go ahead and put them in, and we will answer those for you. So one of the questions, and this is actually Danielle, this is going to be one for you. It's from Steve Richardson. Scheduling posts are great, you know, but he wants to know, when is the preview feature going to be live again?
How funny you should ask. I can actually let all of you know that we are working on a new status for all the different types of content. It'll be a draft status so that you can add content and save it as a draft. And then we're also going to add a basic preview function, because I know that our text editor, TinyMCE, has given some of you some headaches. So not only will you be able to create content in draft form and have an editor look at it or wait until you're happy with it, but you'll also be able to click a preview button and take a look at how it would look, how that content will appear on your site. And I hope to have that up within the next month. That's something we're actively working on right now. It just depends if we come on with any roadblocks. So Steve, we hear you. We actually are working on it as we speak. I just talked to our engineer about it this morning.
Fantastic. And Scott Ray asked, the competitive analysis tool that we showed, right now it's, in beta, like we mentioned. But Danielle, do you have an estimate of when we have that go live? And is it just going to be something that's included with their DSS login, or is it something that has to be purchased separately?
At this time, and I'll give my little disclaimer, anything subject to change. At this time, it will be included as what you get with DSS. And I hope to have it live within the next month or two. It really is in flux because we are still actively working on it and trying to make it as useful as possible. If you're curious about your competitors, if you want to talk to your marketing coach, if those of you who are participating in the program, they can probably give you a little preview and you can take a look at the data that we have right now. But we are actually still adding data to it, so it's not ready to go live. So like I said, in the next month or two, definitely, we should have something up.
Fantastic. And I can answer some of these myself. So the question came up, is it a good mix to do one of each of the 4 types of content that we discussed per week? Yes, it doesn't have to be that you make sure that it's one FAQ, one library article, one blog, and one news each week, but I would mix them up throughout the month. But if that's the strategy you're following now, that's great. Continue with that. The importance is that you have the mix throughout the month so that you are not just blogging and you're not just writing FAQs and you're not just writing articles, that you're doing all of them. So that's important. And yes, the strategy of one of those 4 types a week is good. Another question, when we talk about a minimum of 20 pieces a month, do they all have to be on like car accidents or any other subjects like that when looking at competitors, or can it be a mix of car accidents, med mal, nursing home, etc.? Well, when looking at that competitor analysis, that's a really good question. So really the question is, when we're looking at the competitor analysis, a lot of you have more than one practice area. So you have car accidents as a practice area, you have med mal as a practice area, and you have nursing home. Those are different competitors that you're going to be looking at. So really, you do need to be writing 20 pieces like the one we looked at for car accidents. You look up your nursing home competitors and see what they're doing, and you need to write pieces like that too. Now that can get overwhelming. The important thing is just that you're adding content each month. So, but again, we were looking at each competitor. So like the one we used, it would have been 20 pieces a month for car accidents. Let me just looking through here. Some couple questions about the preview feature. We have recorded this webinar, so it will be available on our website. So if you want to listen to it again, or you want to have someone else in your office listen to it, it will be available. And Mike, how soon would we have that up?
I will have it up by Friday.
Fantastic. And I think, let me make sure I haven't missed any questions here. I think that is all the questions that we have so far. But I do want to mention too that, I've created a writer's manual. Originally it was created for our own in-house writers, but because there were so many questions and such a high demand for information regarding website content, because again, like I mentioned, it's almost like you have to retrain yourself when you're writing website content. And it's not necessarily the same as other forms of offline writing. So I do have that, and I think Danielle, I don't know if you're going there on the screen, but it is available on our website that you can download it. It has some great tips. So let's say you have someone who's blogging for you. I would recommend that you have them read it. I would recommend that you read it, and we have a lot of great tips in there, not just for how to use DSS in your content, but also just like improving conversion, different types of content. I go into that in even more detail in there as well. And even going with the content, I even wrote an article recently that was on SEO Moz, or UMoz section, that also talks about writing content and how you need to focus more on conversion too. So I don't really see any more questions that we have not answered. So if there are no seconds from my team, from Mike and Danielle, we will go ahead and end the meeting for today, but we want to thank you all for joining us, and hope we answered a lot of your questions that you might have had. And if you have any other questions later, you can email any of us. You can go through the website. You can also put in questions that way, and definitely recommend that you download the Writer's Manual and check out this blog too.
I definitely want to second getting that Writer's Manual. It is a big manual. There's a lot of really good information in it, and everything we preach on these calls or anytime we have a coaching call, it's all right there in that manual. It's really, really good.
All right, well, fantastic. Well, thanks again, everybody, and we look forward to our next webinar in August.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your week.
Thank you.